The Faith of Peter, a story of trust and courage. A long time ago, in a quiet town by the sea called Galilee, there lived a fisherman named Peter. He was strong, brave, and hard-working. Every day, he went out to sea, casting his net, hoping to catch enough fish to feed his family. But Peter was not just a fisherman, he was also a follower of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Now, Peter loved Jesus very much. He had seen Jesus perform miracles, turning water into wine, healing sick people, making blind men see, and even raising the dead. But there was one day, one incredible day, when Peter's faith was tested in a way he had never imagined. And that's the story I want to tell you today, the story of Peter walking on water and what it teaches us about faith. It had been a long, tiring day. Jesus had been teaching a large crowd of people, more than 5,000 men, not counting women and children. People were hungry and tired. But Jesus, in his kindness, took 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish, and with a simple prayer, multiplied them to feed everyone. Peter watched in amazement as baskets of food went around, and everyone ate until they were full. "Master," Peter said, walking up to Jesus as the sun began to set, "the people are satisfied, but what about you? You must be tired too." Jesus smiled gently. "Peter, go with the others and take the boat to the other side of the lake. I will stay here a while to pray." Peter hesitated. He didn't want to leave Jesus alone, but he obeyed. "As you wish, Lord." Peter and the other disciples climbed into their small wooden boat and began rowing across the lake. The sky was dark, and the wind started to blow harder and harder. Waves splashed against the boat, and soon a storm began to roar. "Row harder!" Peter shouted, his arms aching. The waves were like wild animals, rising and falling, tossing the boat like a toy. Thunder rolled, and lightning lit up the sky. Fear crept into Peter's heart. They were in the middle of the sea with no way to escape. "Where is Jesus when we need him?" one of the disciples cried out. But Peter, though afraid, remembered Jesus' power. Still, even he could not imagine what was about to happen next. Suddenly, through the mist and rain, Peter saw a strange figure walking on the water. "Look," he shouted, pointing with trembling fingers. The others gasped. "It's a ghost!" they screamed in terror. But then, over the roaring wind, came a voice calm, strong, and familiar. "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter squinted through the rain. It was Jesus. "Lord, is it really you?" Peter called out. "If it is, tell me to come to you on the water." The disciples stared at him in shock. Walk on water? Was Peter out of his mind? But Jesus smiled and said, "Come." Peter's heart pounded. He gripped the edge of the boat, lifted one foot over the side, and touched the water. To his surprise, it held him up. Step by step, Peter walked toward Jesus, his eyes locked on his master. The wind still blew and the waves still crashed, but as long as Peter looked at Jesus, he stood strong. "Look at him," one disciple whispered. "Peter is walking on water." But as Peter walked, he felt the wind lash his face and saw a huge wave rising beside him. His heart filled with fear. "What am I doing?" he thought. "People can't walk on water. What if I sink?" As soon as Peter took his eyes off Jesus and looked at the storm, he began to sink. "Lord, save me," Peter cried, reaching out his hand as the cold water swallowed his legs. Immediately, Jesus reached out and caught him. His grip was strong and sure. "Oh, you of little faith," Jesus said gently, "why did you doubt?" Peter gasped for air, clinging to Jesus' hand. Though wet and shaken, he felt safe. Together, they walked back to the boat, on the water. As soon as Jesus stepped into the boat, the wind stopped. The sea became calm like a quiet pond. The disciples stared in awe. "Truly," they said, "you are the Son of God." Peter sat in the boat, still dripping wet, but smiling. He had walked on water. Yes, he had doubted, but Jesus had saved him. Later that night, as they sat around a small fire to dry their clothes, Peter thought about what had happened. "Master," he asked softly, "why did I sink?" Jesus looked at him kindly. "Peter, when you looked at me, you had faith. But when you looked at the storm, fear took over. You must learn to trust me always, even when life is like a storm." Peter nodded. I understand, Lord. Help me to always trust you. Dear friends, like Peter, sometimes we go through storms in life. Things don't always go as we plan. Problems may come at school, at work, or even at home. And just like Peter, we might start to doubt and feel afraid. But remember, when Peter was sinking, he called out to Jesus, and Jesus caught him. Jesus never lets us sink when we trust him. So when life feels hard, keep your eyes on Jesus. Trust him, pray to him, and remember he is always close, ready to reach out his hand and lift you up. Moral of the story: faith means trusting Jesus, even when we are afraid. Fear makes us sink, but faith makes us strong. When we call out to Jesus, he always helps us. Don't focus on the storm, focus on Jesus. So boys and girls, mummies and daddies, remember, when you are scared, when you feel like you're sinking, just say like Peter, Lord, save me, and Jesus will be there. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Bible stories that teach us how to trust God every day.